Hi everybody, Matt and Tom back with you. Look at this wonderful building behind me. This is Samlesbury Hall and we're between Preston and Blackburn. We've come today to have a look around the hall, but whilst we're here there is a very interesting bit of history that links in with the Pendle Witches, because here at Samlesbury Hall, at the same time as the Pendle Witches, were the Samlesbury Witches. All will make sense later. Samlesbury Hall is a medieval manor house built around 1325. Though it's rumoured that there was another building on the site even before that, which makes it roughly 700 years old. It was built by Gilbert de Southworth, and their bloodline lived here until the 17th century, leaving in approximately 1678. Members of the family make up our stories for today. After the Southworth family left here, at various points it's had a different life. It has been a girls' boarding school and a public house. The public house was called the Braddill Arms Inn and opened here in 1830, and this room was used as the inn. And in 1850 the girls' boarding school opened. But by 1909 the hall was empty. In 1924 it was decided that the best fate for the house was to demolish it and build a housing estate. However, money was raised to save it, the money being raised by public subscription. By 1925 the house was safe. In the last century it's gone from a grade 1 to a grade 2 listed building and is now obviously open as a museum for visitors to walk around and look at the past, but also it can be used as a wedding venue and is frequently on Saturdays. Can you imagine getting married in this little church below? Perhaps unsurprisingly for a building this age, there are ghosts to talk about. These include the White Lady, who's said to be the ghost of Dorothy Southworth, who is a lost bride searching for her lover. She's been spotted in the buildings and in the gardens. Now, the Southworths were a Catholic family, but Dorothy fell in love with an Anglican boy. The couple would meet in secret, but the secret was discovered by Dorothy's brothers. One night the brothers waited when the boy appeared with friends. They killed him and the two friends he was with. Dorothy was sent away to a foreign convent and died alone a few years after of a broken heart. Centuries later, 3 skeletons were discovered outside the grounds in a moat. Were these the 3 killed by Dorothy's brothers? Also, in this priest hole, a priest hid away but was found and beheaded, and it's said that the floor would constantly have red blood on it, and even though they cleaned it up, the blood would return. Visitors have reported strange feelings, specifically when in the Great Hall they've seen shadows. Some have even been slapped on the back of the head. Right, Tom, what book are you reading?
I am reading about the famous witches of Salsbury, with extracts from
A wonderful discovery of witches in the county of Lancaster, which of course generally refers to the Pendle Witches.
Pendle Witches.
But what happened here at Samlesbury Hall?
Samlesbury Hall. Well. These were the 3 that got off. They got away with it, or didn't do it, more to the point. But they were accused. There were three ladies. One was Jane Southworth, who was the daughter-in-law of Sir John Southworth of Samlesbury Hall, and he was a recusant Catholic, a closeted Catholic, and he hated her because his son, who she married, also called John Southworth, had become a Protestant, and he was very angry about that, and in fact disinherited him. They lived just down the road at Lower Samlesbury Hall, and it was said he didn't even like going past his house if he could avoid it because he hated him that much. Anyway, he died in 1612, just before these witches were found, and he employed 2 or 3 Catholic priests, Jesuit priests, one that they referred to as Thompson. And this Thompson chap, he'd been infiltrating the mind of a 14-year-old girl called Grace Sowerbutt, who was a local girl. She accused her grandma and her auntie and their friend Jane Southworth, the daughter-in-law, of the most horrendous acts. To be accused by their very own granddaughter must have been quite something, and they were seized along with 5 other women also from Samlesbury, and the 10 women from Pendle and other bits of Lancashire, and were taken to Lancaster Castle, where they were all tried on the same day in 1612.
Right, so the Samlesbury Witches were tried on the same day as the Pendle Witches. Okay.
And they were all held in the same prison cell, so 18 people in there, 18 people. And 5 of the Samlesbury Witches were acquitted before anything came to trial. But the 3 that weren't stood trial, and Grace stood up and she told all these horrible stories about her grandma and their friends and their auntie. And then it was under further examination, she was examined, and she broke down in tears, and she said actually she was manipulated by this man called Thompson, the Jesuit priest. And if there was one thing in those days that they hated more than a woman, these men, it was a Catholic. So because of that fact, they let the 3 women off, but executed the other Pendle witches. A few years later, there was a big report done about miscarriages of justice, and the Samlesbury Witches were a big part of that report.
So do we know what happened to the witches, or the accused people, even if they weren't witches?
This book doesn't really seem to know. It appears Jane Southworth, the widow of the son-in-law. She married again to a Mr. Rigby, not Rigsby, and the rest of them there's no record.
Okay.
I wonder if they were buried in consecrated ground or not.
Yeah.
So the three Samlesbury witches that stood trial were accused of putting a needle inside a baby's abdomen and then sucking the blood. And after the baby died a couple of days later and was buried, they dug up the baby's body and took the flesh, ate the flesh. They boiled the bones, they sucked the gelatin out and made an ointment with it, which allowed them to shapeshift into other things like black dogs.
What were they accused of doing down by the river?
They were accused of holding sabbats every Thursday and Sunday evening on Red Bank of the River Ribble, just near the home of Jane Southworth. And at these sabbats they would dance with large black phallic objects that did not have the face of man. And they would dance, frolic, and then eat them.
Oh wow.
Yes, sorry, frolic, yeah.
And then eat.
And then eat them, fornicate, sorry.
Okay.
Frolic,
we understand.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry. And then eat them, dyslexia. And then eat them. And they did this every Thursday and Sunday night.
All right. Cool. So this church, I think, is called, is it St Leonard's the Less? Yeah, and who is buried in here then?
So John Southworth, the Protestant son of the Catholic one of Samlesbury Hall, wife of Jane Southworth, one of the witches, and also her next husband, Mr. Rigby. They're supposed to be buried here, although we haven't found any graves, have we?
No.
Sort of 17 something or other. But they are buried here.
Somewhere. Cool.
She's not though.
No. Where is she?
No one.
No idea. So we've just been on Potter Lane and we're going to find the ruins of a building. I'll put a picture on in a minute. It's on private land, so we took a quick picture and escaped. But what was that building?
That was Lower Samlesbury Hall, which is where Jane Southworth and the young John Southworth lived.
Okay.
Very close to the Red Crag where they held Red Bank, where they held their sabbats.
And it looks like this. Okay, so there we go. That is a little look around Samlesbury Hall, as well as the story of the Samlesbury Witches. Obviously not as famous as the Pendle Witches, but what a magnificent building. And it's hard to believe that they were going to demolish this in 1925 for a housing estate. Thank goodness they didn't. And it is absolutely amazing, and you can see, you know, there's things everywhere to spot. Yeah, good place. Definitely recommend a visit. And yeah, we'll see you soon for the next video. Take care.